Hey everybody in the reggae universe, welcome to a conversation in dub hosted by me, Mark Ramondi.
And me, James Pasqua. This podcast is all about exploring the massive world of reggae and dub music, from its roots in Jamaica to its influence on various music genres worldwide.
This podcast also explores the intricacies of dub through insightful conversations, interviews with artists, and in-depth analysis of iconic tracks. We don't just talk about the music, but also the stories behind it, the techniques used in its production, and the social and political context that shaped its development.
Our goal is to promote mindful listening, taking you, the listener, on the journey the artist intended. Through this process, we hope to introduce you to new music or give you a new insight on music you already know and love.
This podcast is brought to you by Rootfire, a platform for reggae music worldwide with a mission to empower artists and nurture the community that supports them. You're here because you love reggae music and want to be a part of that community. We're here to help connect the dots.
If you have any feedback for us, be sure to email us at aconversationindub@gmail.com or message us on Facebook or Instagram at aconversationindub. We love hearing from you. Now,
let's get to the show.
This week, A Conversation in Dub will be a little different. We have a special guest host filling in for Mark, our friend Dave Shiffman from Rootfire. Together, we are joined by a special guest, Josh Swain of the American reggae band, The Movement. We're going to be listening to their newest single, So Cool, featuring Nick Hexum from 311. You can find that song on all streaming platforms and YouTube today. So, pause now, listen to that song, and join us for our conversation with Josh. Josh, thank you for joining us on A Conversation in Dub. It is wonderful to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor.
Yeah, of course. And you guys are getting ready for some upcoming shows for the spring and summertime. So I'm glad we can make this happen before that.
Yeah, for sure. We've had like 6 months off or something, so I'm kind of going insane. But yeah, it's gonna be good to get back out there.
Nice. Yeah, so we're definitely going to talk about the new single, So Cool, featuring Nick Hexum. It is so cool. But I wanted to give, a little background for our listeners. A little bit of the beginning of the movement, of yourself. If you can give some context around how the band started, what got you into reggae, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really long story. I'll try to keep it a little bit simplified, but yeah, I mean, I grew up in South Carolina. There's, zero reggae scene there, really no music scene, to be honest. Had some like metal stuff going on, but yeah, I mean, it started, I guess listening to, The Dead and stuff when I was in middle school, getting into high school, and getting into kind of the hippie culture and smoking herb and becoming a teenager and all that. And yeah, started listening to Bob Marley, of course, and branching out, and then kind of stumbled upon 311, and then stumbled upon Sublime and Slightly Stupid, and it was really kind of finding Sublime that like kind of I was in a band in high school, but we played like alternative rock stuff, Pearl Jam, and I was into like Guns N' Roses and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't really till Bob Marley and Sublime really that Sublime kind of showed the way for us little white kids to kind of throw our like I was really into hip hop and stuff too, and listening to a lot of like gangster rap and Tupac and Biggie and all that, and just that blending of like hippie culture with hip hop culture and reggae culture to me was super cool, and started I went to actually Full Sail in Florida when I was after graduated high school and got my audio engineering degree. And
it's funny you mentioned that. I was going to bring that up because I too went to Full Sail.
Oh, nice.
I went there in '08. And I remember being in Full Sail, listening to the movement, and
Oh
seeing
shit.
somewhere that it said that you went there, and I was like, oh, awesome, I'm on the right
Yeah.
path.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, I left there and kind of immediately was like, I don't know that I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go the other route, and
Hmm.
try to actually be on the other side. So, yeah, started a band with my buddy, and wasn't really a band. It was just us two. And man, I just saw some old videos of like our first shows, and it's so cringy, man. It's like unbelievable that we're still a band to this day, because for the first, I mean, 15 years of my career, no, we should have had no one listening to us. You know what I mean? It's so bad. But other people will say probably otherwise. But yeah, so we started playing. It was just me and the other original singer, Jordan, and like at first, like he would just play congas, and I would sing. And then we like had like a 4-track tape machine, and we would like pre-program beats onto that, and and we would play just two front men, and I would go back and hit play on the 4-track, and we'd have everything pre-recorded, and that's how we kind of started. And then we got a DJ who was kind of he's the guy that would hit play basically. And then it wasn't till '08 that we moved to Philly, and met up with Jay and Gary, and formed like an actual band for the first time. But we had done like 4 years of touring before that, like over 300 days a year, pretty much every year, and yeah, met up with those guys, and um, just kind of the rest is history. We had a couple lineup changes here and there, but ended up meeting Matt Goodwin, who's from Easy Star All Stars and John Brown's Body, and he was a real game changer. We had Ross Bogan along the way, who's an amazing musician as well. Yeah, I met up with Seth Herman, who was managing the Green, and John Brown's Body, and Seth led us to Reed and to Root Fire, and that led us to Ineffable. And it's really like I ended up getting sober. That was a huge part, because we were just a mess as a band, for so many years, just an absolute disaster. And yeah, with the sobriety and the right management, and bringing on Ross, and then bringing on Matt, and now we got the whole crew behind us. Eventually we still after 20 years, we eventually put together a band that could kind of resemble an actual band. So here we are today, and yeah, that's the very short of it.
It's funny that you're talking about the band, the movement, as if it's just some small band that you have that you kind of do sometimes. But to the rest of the scene, I mean, it's not that. The movement is like, oh shoot, the movement is coming. They're on all these festivals. I gotta see them. I travel to go see them, and you you're over here talking like, it's just me and some buddies, and we do some
Yeah,
stuff.
well, that's how it feels. I mean, it's always felt that way, and
That's good
uh,
though.
I don't know. I don't think it could ever change. Yeah, I still don't really see it. I don't know that any one of us does. We never feel like we never feel like we've really accomplished any. I don't know. I don't know if that's a curse or a gift or whatever, but yeah, we're always still just like, we need to be doing this and we need to be doing that. And none of us feels like we're in a big band by any means. And I think it's because we spent so many years as like underdogs, and we still feel that way. We always do.
I think humility is a good thing, especially in terms of the context of of longevity of a band.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I've heard stories and kind of know like of stories of bands that, um, maybe a couple of the guys like feel like they're owed something, or like they're too big for whatever. And I don't know, man. If anybody was like that in the band, it would be such a hard dynamic to keep the band together. And we all just feel like a bunch of normal dudes that we're still trying to make it, none of us have any money, and like none of us are like, so we're just always hustling. We've always just been grinding, and that's how we feel. Like every tour feels like a grind, and every album feels like, we have to push the envelope and do better. And so we're still always just grinding. And that honestly, I think that it's kind of the only way to be. It's like, I think if you get any semblance of feeling like you made it, you kind of lose the hunger, you know?
Mm.
So we've never really lost that.
You definitely hear that among bands for sure. It's it's nice to hear that you guys are still, grinding away, as you say. And the moral of that kind of long story that you gave is perseverance. Like you say, looking back, like I can't believe that we are still a band, but like you
Yeah.
just kept doing it, and you didn't know if people were into it, but you just kept doing it, and here you are now, still doing it, and people are liking it. So that's awesome, awesome to
I,
hear.
I feel like that is like a good lesson for any up and coming like musicians. If you just keep going like until you just literally, I think maybe until you're like 55. Maybe if you haven't made it by then, you can then start to look at a different course, you know. But yeah, like I've always told the guys like just that's our biggest strength, I think, is that we've just kept at it, you know.
Awesome. Um, Josh, so cool. New single just came out. Um, Talk to us about it. I mean, how did it come about with working with Nick Hexum from 311? I mean, that's a pretty big name.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to 311 since I was in high school, and like I said, they're one of my biggest influences, and really learned a lot about like harmony through like Nick and essays,
Mm,
you know, harmonies. And you know, it's crazy when I look at like our trajectory versus theirs. Like you go back to their very first record, Music, and they were so good like immediately. I'm like, how does that happen? Like it amazes me. And there's bands in our scene that their first record is killer, you know. I'm like,
hmm
wow, how does that go down? But yeah, so I don't know. I've been listening to them forever, and you know, I've been to their concerts when I was younger, you know, and of course I've seen them a lot now. You know, we've done a couple festivals with them. We've opened for them a few times, and it just seemed like the those are the kind of like celebrity musicians that you feel like you'll never meet, you know, they're just too big. And I actually met them a couple times when we opened up for them, and the other guys went on the 311 cruise with them before.
mm,
I wasn't around for that one, but yeah, it just seemed crazy. But anyway, the fact that like Nick is on this tune is completely mind blowing to me, and um, it kind of came about like we don't really necessarily write tunes with artists in mind, but once we've written a tune, we kind of go, "Oh, this would be cool if we had this guy or you know this girl on here." And that song in particular, Gary actually wrote the rhythm for that, and it was something that I really like. He writes like 100 rhythms a day. I think he's on his like 400th record right now,
wow.
his own personal records. He writes like 10 songs a day, and he's always just sending us rhythms, you know, and you know, some of them are whatever, but this one really struck me. It's got a really cool line, and what I'll usually do is I'll take that and put it into Ableton and kind of arrange it in like a more song structure. I'll write some lyrics and melody to it, and then we ended up recording that in Boston and putting live instruments to it and changing it here and there. And yeah, when it was all said and done, you know, we left a verse open, and I was like, man, you know, I don't know who said it first, but we could really imagine Nick being on this, and it's got kind of a um, cosmic theming to it, you know.
hmm
It's got a cool groove, almost like sort of amberish in a way, you know, and felt like it might be something that you know, it was a long shot, but we thought we'd throw it out there. And Reed's got a couple connections over there and in their camp, and we were lucky enough to just send him over the tune, and he agreed to do it, and he was really quick about it. And when we got it back, it's just such a trip because you know he's like singing the chorus with me, and like and saying words that I wrote, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
like it's not just like he wrote a separate verse, he's actually like saying some of the things that I actually wrote. So not only is he like on the tune, but he's like singing words that I wrote. So it's just a mind-blowing thing to me. And I mean, just so grateful. It's like probably the coolest thing. And Jay, I mean, everybody's a huge fan, but like Jay is like worships 311, you know what I mean? So he's tripping out and we're all just tripping out about it. I mean, you have another thing too, where like you have like almost um like like regret in a way. You're like, oh, okay, so we can get Nick on a tune. We're like, let's write a better tune than this one. Like this song's okay, but like, okay, now that Nick will agree to do a song with us, let's make sure it's a different one. So I'm like, I was thinking maybe we should throw him on a different tune, or maybe now let's write another song so it'll be like this banger, whatever. Because this song is like, I love the tune, and when you go through the life of like recording a record, you have favorite songs.
Hmm.
But once you start listening through, you're like, oh, now I hate this song. I love this song. Now I don't like that. Now this one's my favorite. So that one was my favorite. Then I was kind of lukewarm, but now it's like up to the top again. And yeah, I'm just really excited about it. And
Josh, it's so funny because you've mentioned a few things that James and I had been discussing about the song previously, and one of the things that I had like questioned was I find it interesting that you have Nick Hexum on this track, and you got him kind of singing with his bedroom voice rather than toasting or rapping over one of your bangers, and I just thought it was an interesting choice, and I was going to ask you about that, and you've already talked about it.
yeah, it's strange. Like I feel like the majority of our records just kind of happen like organically. There's no real planning, like there's a little bit of pre-production and a little bit of thought that goes into it, I guess, but things just kind of happen, and that's just the way the song happened. And yeah, it's like, you think about when you're releasing singles, like this one was like quite like you don't know, like, is this the right single, you know what I mean? But when you do that, you're really like questioning what are other people gonna like, and it's impossible to tell. And you can't really write for your audience, because it does something to the song. And so yeah, you just never know, and maybe this will be like the song that everybody likes. And you could write a tune where you're like, I want Nick to be doing this, and I think that like the audience will like it more if he's like, if we do some metal, because that's kind of what 311 is, and da da da. But 311's so all over the place,
Mm.
and it's like come original. It's like all different styles, range of emotion, and so I feel like that's what connected with him about this, was it wasn't maybe necessarily right up his what he normally does. So maybe that's why he even agreed to do it in the first place. You never know.
Now
Well,
I have
you
to.
also, again, sorry, James.
Oh no, you can go.
I was just going to say you also mentioned the word cosmic, and that really ties into this track. Some of my favorite 311 music has that element to it.
Yeah.
From the like Transistor record,
Yeah.
really sort of like vibing on outer space and things like that.
Yeah.
Now this track, I feel like in terms of, I was hoping you could comment a little bit on the inspiration of it lyrically. It speaks to a strong connection with another human. Probably romantic, but maybe not necessarily. Um, but I think like my main takeaway from the song was sort of the phenomenon of how two souls find each other in this vast experience of life. Could you comment a little bit about the inspiration in the lyrics?
Yeah, I think that's a cool take, because that wasn't necessarily the original thing. And I think that's what Nick kind of took from it too, which is great. And Nick, I think, added that element with his lyrics. Um, a lot of this record like was um when I was trying to think of material, like a lot of it, like I was literally like in my room, like just looking out my window, and like because I'd be at my desk, with my computer. It was in a different room than this, and in a different house. And I was like, what's inspiring today? What can I write about? And I'd be just like looking out my window, big ass backyard and birds and like the trees swaying in the wind, and at night seeing the stars and kind of tripping out on nature really. And this song was like the other, it was going to be like so cool, and in parentheses it was going to say a love letter to earth. So really it's like me writing to the earth, like almost like a love letter. And like how we're the same thing, it says like we come from the same dark place, a ways away, out in outer space, but it's hard to say. Underneath it, we're all the same thing. We've both just been part of the one always. So like it comes back to this kind of feeling, and like it's a pretty well known like theory, I guess, that like, and it's kind of what I've kind of been leaning towards as a philosophy of life, that everything is just one thing, and that separation is really just an illusion. And so we have like these egos, and we have the way that our brains separate things by, okay, those molecules are over here, these molecules are over here, this has consciousness, this doesn't, da da da. But that potentially everything is really just one thing, and potentially everything is just God. So everything is just one thing, right? And I was kind of just maybe writing like about how the earth and everything that I was looking at out the window, we're all just the same thing, and we're all just one, and how that's so cool.
That just makes this song so much more enjoyable for me.
Yeah, having the
Like you just
context is
took
great.
the whole experience of this song for me and leveled it up, because I really like appreciate that sort of philosophy,
Yeah.
and philosophizing about the nature of existence. It's funny because another thing that James and I were talking about that I was going to ask you about, and you've just mentioned, is I remember like last week you posted a reel on Instagram, and you were kind of contemplating what we're talking about, how everything is connected at its most core level. And I was curious if this song had arisen from that same spirit of introspection. And well, it obviously did.
Yeah. Yeah. We were kind of doing these, videos like leading up to this release, so they say you have to like do like videos in under 30 seconds or whatever, and I mean we're so old school, man. Like we're not just old school, but we're kind of old at this point, so like the whole 30-second video shit is like kind of lost to me. But like how do you talk about that kind of a subject in 30 seconds? I don't know. So I felt like it was a little lame, or a lame attempt at like trying to explain the song in 30 seconds. But yeah, that was that.
And what a perfect time to release a song like that, talking about, being one with the earth and stuff. And it's the beginning of spring. The song is coming out, and I know it's going to be on my summer playlist going forward, and I'm sure a lot of other people are gonna put that on like the summer reggae playlist that they have.
Nice.
I did want to ask, did you already have the guitar solo before you knew Nick Hexum was gonna be singing on there, or was it kind of inspired by the fact that it's a 311-ish song?
No, you're talking about the guitar solo at the end?
Yeah, yeah.
That's actually Nick.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I think it's either Nick or Tim. He didn't specify, but I'm pretty sure it's Nick. Yeah, he sent over the vocals, excuse me, and then he sent over that little solo at the end, and we're like, okay, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's where that came from. That's Nick.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard that and I was like, wow, now it really sounds like a 311 song.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can solo that good, so that's him.
No, that's great. And I wanted to get into collaborations because obviously This is a collaboration. Your past albums have had a ton of collaborations, really awesome ones, and you yourself have been on a ton of different singles and albums of various artists across the scene. Um, does that like I'm struggling to put it into words. Does it like re-energize you or re-energize the band when you have a collaboration?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was just going to give away all the collabs that we have on this record.
That's up to you.
This one's really cool. I'm really excited for the features that we have on this. I don't know, man. It's like it's I don't know about like energizing. Like it's a very confusing thing to do. I mean, probably back in the day you would have the artist out at your studio, and you would cut a tune together. You might like actually collab on the song.
Sure.
I feel like these days kind of that's not really how it's done usually. I'm sure it definitely is still done that way, but the way that our features have usually gone is we write a tune, we leave 16 bars open for someone, and then we reach out. And usually, and I reversely, I guess that's the word, conversely, I don't know, have that same thing kind of happening to me pretty much on a weekly basis too. I have a lot of artists reaching out and sending me songs, and I've had to unfortunately be like pretty choosy because I'd be on like 40 songs a year.
Of course.
And don't really, I would like to, but it's like I can't do like all of these tunes. So when I get a song, it's actually kind of better for me to have like a fully developed song, already. I remember Kevin Kinsella from JVB sent me this he's like the most amazing artist on the planet, and he sent me these like skeletons of songs, and it was so confusing, and I was like, how am I supposed to feature on this? It's so bare bones. I didn't really know how, and I didn't understand at the time that he wanted me to like collaborate with him. So I like missed this huge opportunity on like collaborating with one of my top favorite artists of all time. And so yeah, what we do is it's just it seems almost businessy, you know what I mean? And that's unfortunate, but the end result is like the collabs that we've had just take the song to a whole nother level. And a song like say Golden, for example, to have like Elliot Martin, who's like one of my all-time favorite artists, to have him on the tune, it's just, I don't know, it really just kind of makes you feel good. I'm like, yes, so energizing, yeah, but it's also like we're trying to make the song better, so it's kind of a businessy thing.
Josh, but you did collaborate with Kevin on one of his tracks on at Imperial Sound Volume 2, right? God of Love.
Yeah, and it was more like it was still more of the same thing, like I wasn't at the studio, but yeah, I mean that was more of like, it wasn't just like here's your 16 bar section. It was more like, hey, do this, and then add a little part here, and then okay, we're gonna flip your part over here, and then can you sing the chorus with me, and can you sing the harmony? So it was like a more involved process, and that was actually cooler than most things, and I love that tune. And
yeah, it's a cool tune. It's a great album.
Yeah,
I know he talked highly of you. I remember hearing him talk to Dave on the Station Head show that he had, and I remember you guys got to that song and he talked very highly of you, like working with you and
yeah. I mean, those are the kind of things that trip me out. I mean, I've been listening to JBB forever, and they're my favorite band in the scene, and maybe my favorite band of all time. And yeah, to have anything to do with them is mind blowing. I mean, I can't say enough. They had like a 30-year anniversary thing going on, and Nate Edgar asked me to do a video of like how have they inspired you or whatever, and I think it was probably only supposed to be like a minute long. I think I did like 15 minutes, like just rambling and rambling. And so, yeah, I mean, to work with these guys too, it's sort of like a validation in a lot of ways,
Mm.
it's unbelievable to me. And, a lot of times I feel like it's, I'm not worthy or whatever, but, yeah, it's kind of like validating, same way that like playing Red Rocks is validating to
Mm.
bands, oh, you kind of get to this status symbol, or it's like a mark, a benchmark,
Yeah,
it's like, okay, like Elliot Martin, Kevin Kinsella, Nick Hexum, Scott Woodruff, if you can get these, if you can work with them in any way, it is validating as an artist, and it feels good. And I know it makes the fans happy, so that's kind of first and foremost.
for sure.
JBB has to be the biggest influence on bands in the scene from my experience in talking to a lot of artists over the last 10 years.
Right.
They're a perennial influence, and as they should be, right? They've been
You should.
around for 30 years and paved the way for this scene.
Definitely for me too.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really get any better. Like they, and we don't have to go on a whole tangent about it, but it is different. It's like a different, it's almost like, you have like your kind of West Coast bands, Sublime and Stupid, and they are so influential in a certain way, and maybe more influential in a lot of ways. But then you have like, a band like JBB, or a band like, Giant Panda, coming out of the East Coast, that they're just doing something in a different way. It's
Hmm.
hard to explain. It's like, it's smarter, it's more technical, it's more thought provoking, and just like it's like darker in a lot of ways, and more interesting in a lot of ways, So I think
Being
it appeals to some, and doesn't appeal to others.
being from the Northeast, I'm originally from Jersey. My co-host Mark is also still living in Jersey. There's something about the Northeast American reggae scene that, like you're saying, is just very different, and it's really hard to articulate. Like it's more maybe progressive, experimental. It
Right, right.
sounds different. It's not as lighthearted as a lot of the other American reggae songs are. You got like Flying Vipers too. Just throw them in there. All these, they're just hard hitting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to articulate, like you're saying.
Yeah. Then go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. I'm curious, like with Goody's ties to,
Yeah.
JBB and being from upstate New York, where Seth Herman lived, and he's from all of what we're talking about. And I'm curious if he's brought something, if you could put into words what he's brought to your production and songwriting or composing, what everything that he brings to the table, that brings that element into your music.
Yeah. I mean, that I was actually just gonna kind of talk about Goody talking about that Northeast reggae, Ithaca, and New York reggae, and the Rochester kids and stuff like that. And if you're coming from like fucking cold snow, no sunshine, and just, and people from the Northeast are kind of assholes, and like New York assholes, or just harder dudes, or whatever. And just seems like and man, I lived in Philly for a while, and even coming from like South Carolina, I'm like, man, it's just like, it's not good up here, like I was just like, I don't like this up here. I don't like the Northeast, and I still don't, but I love like upstate New York is cool, and stuff like that. But being in like the city and like Jersey, and I just did not have a good time when I was up there. But I was also going through some personal shit as well. But it's just darker, it's colder, it's just
Mhm.
meaner, you know what I mean? So you have like harder music, I feel like. And when you combine that like hardness with reggae, it creates a unique sound that's different from like the Cali sunshiny, vibey, West Coast kind of reggae. But that being said, we've been lucky enough to like have. I remember the first time we toured with Tribal Seeds, we toured as a three piece, and like I've said before, man, I am surprised that we still have fans because I've heard us as a three piece and it's so bad. And we're just missing this, like missing the keyboards, and we're missing uh, you know, we have a lot of stuff in our music that you can't really play. Like we need like 10 musicians like John Brown's Body. That's why they have so many musicians because they need them. And that is why we kind of, we use a couple backing tracks now. There's just some stuff in there that we need to have going on. But that being said, we had like Ross Bogan for a while who really kind of brought in uh, our first real taste of like kind of a really good keyboardist and what that can kind of do for you. And it seems like with keyboardists, they bring in some type of technical know-how. Like I don't know why, but they seem to know how to plug shit in right, and they have this like creative thing where hey, I'm going to use this thing now and this synthesizer, and let's try to plug this into here and make this sound, and we'll do this. And Ross was really great about that. And then when we got Matt, I don't know, like Matt is like the weirdest human I've ever met in the sense that like he has taken on like he wants to know everything, about every instrument and about not just instruments, but like how to do a video wall and how Grand MA works for, how to be a lighting director and how to do time code and how to bring all the elements of a live show into play. And the dude just like wants to do all of it. And it's so weird because normally like most people just want to do one thing or maybe two and then be like, let's let the other guys kind of handle this so I can concentrate on this stuff. But now he started learning how to scratch records and DJ. So he's going to bring turntables, I think, on, on the road this time. So we joke that we literally have to block off half the stage just for Matt, and then the rest of us can fit on the other side of the stage because he has so much stuff. But what he brought to the table, man, was not just like musical, was not just an attribute musically, but really he just brought the whole production level of our live shows into play. And I mean, if you see any show on YouTube or whatever pre-Matt, it's like, oh, that was a cute band, or whatever. And then like post-Matt is like, we got to get the lights and we got to get the fog and we got to get the machines that do this and the towers. And now we have the video wall. And like, there's not many bands kind of our size that are like touring with a video wall. And it's like, our crew like hates him because he just wants more wall and more wall and more wall. But he's by far, and it's not just that, like he does the artwork, a lot of the artwork for this stuff and, digital art and stuff. So he's on everything. He touches everything we do. And he's just been such an asset. And like, he took us from, a band that, who knows like how much gas we had left in the tank, if we might have just stayed at the same level forever. And he really just took it up to 11, and just made it like so cool. And he brought that New York Ithaca, Northeast vibe. Just like, he makes a lot of rhythms as well. So a lot of the tunes are his kind of creation. And, he'll add some crazy key sounds that we never would have thought of before. And he also plays trumpet. Then we brought his cousin Kyle into the band who plays sax, and he just brought everything, so
nice. So he's just always learning, which then pushes you guys to always be going forward. Because if you listen to the progression of the Movement albums, I mean, every album is like pushing and pushing further and further, not further away, just you're pushing the music scene forward in a different way. It's not stale in any way.
Yeah, I think with the last record, I think a lot of us kind of feel like it was a stumble in a way. It was like a COVID record, so we weren't really like writing together. Everything was kind of done from different houses. And So there's really that digital drum kind of sound, even though Gary did overdub live drums on the majority of the tunes. It was just kind of all over the place, and we feel like it's a weird record, and for the time though, we were in weird times, and you know all of our records I think reflect kind of where we are at this stage of life, and we were just in a bizarre time. So that record's all over the place and had definitely a less cohesive feel to it.
Hmm.
But was really proud of it, and I still like it. I just feel like we were pushing. I felt like we're almost pushing too hard, to create maybe like different kind of sounds and different songs that maybe I think fell flat in the end. And I think that with this record, we're kind of it is a non-COVID record, so we were able to get up like 3 times and various studios to record, and we're trying to not like we want it to sound a little more organic than the last one, So,
Cool.
Josh, it's crazy for me to hear you speak of Always With Me with anything less than like absolute pride, because that album to me is phenomenal.
Thank
And,
you.
like I deeply love almost every song on that album, and I love like how it's diverse.
Okay.
And I didn't pick up on like the nuances of maybe the fact that it was recorded how it was during the lockdown and whatnot. But there's so much greatness on that album, and every single one of your records. Like I feel like what James said is true. Like what's cool about it is there's always going to be something new and surprising in a good way on every Movement record, and that's a little bit different than the record before it. So I think that's fantastic. Like you guys are not ever putting out anything stale, like you're always reinvigorating your sound while also staying true to your core Movement vibe. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. So please know that there are people out there that love that record, man.
Yeah, well, I have no other way of being than like critical of our records. You know what I mean? It's just like that's I don't know what it is, but yeah, I mean any record that I've ever done, after a year or two goes by, you look at it and you go, oh, all right, what's that? You know what I mean? I don't know, it's just no other way to really be.
Goes back to
But
the humility like we talked before.
yeah, I don't know. It's more like self-deprecating BS,
We're our own worst critics, right? That's definitely an attribute many of us share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a character defect of mine. So
Well, and then I'd love to just comment, like you made a comment earlier in the interview about like the first 15 years, everything was shit or whatever, but like that would include, I think, like On Your Feet was your very first release, which you probably cringe at now based on what you're saying, but like even that album has so many great songs on it.
Thanks.
And I just want to comment that I think it's like coming full circle if you're bringing scratching back into the music.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell Matt that you're excited about it because that's all I think he wants to do now. But at least maybe we'll get him to just focus on one thing, and then we'll take away everything else, and we'll just have him be the DJ, and maybe we'll get somebody else to play trumpet, and then maybe somebody else to play keys or something. He could just scratch. I'm sure he would actually love that. But yeah, thanks for saying that about Always With Me. It's yeah, like you're trying to like push forward like you're saying and create we really don't like have any other way to be. I think that we would like to be more stale and to like find like a sound and to have a brand, you know what I mean? That's like that's the Movement, like that style is the Movement. That you hear a song and immediately like that's the kind of their lane, and we could stick with a brand and have it kind of locked in as a certain thing. I think that's definitely something that we've run into, as we grow as a band, is like our moods are all over the place, our personalities, and you wake up one day and you're feeling kind of aggro, so you write like a more hard tune, and then you wake up the next day and you feel chill and everything's nice, so you write like a nice happy tune. and then you put it all in a record and you're like, dude, this fucking thing is all over the place. Like how, it doesn't, there's no cohesion, doesn't make sense. And how do you even like choose uh like a cover for this thing? Because what's one piece of art that describes all of this, so we have run into like that kind of confusion. Like the movement seems to be like kind of a confusing band, to me anyway, and we're running into that issue. But again, it just has all come back to like that's just who we are, and we can't really write any other way. We would love to dial it back and write like one cohesive like record that's kind of like all chill or all hard, you know what I mean? Or so I don't know. It's a I think it's a positive, and it's also kind of it's a hard thing to work with. But it's worked, I guess, pretty good so far, so we'll stick with it.
It must be hard for you to see because, like, the way you're talking about it, as if like you have a harder song, a lighter song, an aggressive song, a super chill stoner song, whatever it may be. I mean, you talked earlier about your influences. Sublime did
Right,
not
right.
have a cohesive sound. 311 did not have I mean, they had a brand, but they went all over the place too. You
Right.
look at bands like
And so did
Fishbone
JBB.
and
Yeah,
JBB all over the place, So it works for some bands, and it
sure.
it works the alternative for other
Yeah.
bands, and I think you've got that down.
I think there is, even if the songs vary in terms of their tempo or their vibe, like it's you at the front of it all, Josh, right? And so your voice, you know, brings it all together and makes it consistent. And so I wouldn't sweat it, bro. I wouldn't sweat it.
Yeah. I know that I'm sounding like I'm sweating hard. I don't know. I just, like you said, we are our own worst critics, and they are things that I think about. It's like I think when you're young, and you're just writing music for the hell of it, and you think no one will ever listen, which was like a lot of our career, it's so like easy. You just write whatever and you go and you tour and you play and get drunk and you don't care how the show is, and just you don't care, And I think we have gotten to this kind of like a contemplative moment in all of our lives as musicians where we wonder about things like that. What is what direction do we want to go, or what, you just start to kind of, it's not like second guessing yourself, but you just wonder about things,
Mm.
So I don't want to sound like am like bashing my own music by any means, because I do love it a lot, and
Of
it really
course.
does represent who I am and who we are. But yeah, you always are wondering, and a lot of it has to do with once you get to this 20 years into your career, you start thinking of it in terms of like a business in a lot of ways, and you just wonder what the right moves are, as any like head of a business would, just trying to figure out what the best course of action is. And
For
it's
sure.
definitely the most like mixing business with pleasure that you could ever do. You're literally like involved with your best friends in this like business that's all about like creativity, and it's a lot of just weirdness.
Hmm.
I don't know. I doubt that there are many businesses that are like this, so
Yeah. And speaking of, you know, the direction that you're going in, future plans for the movement. You have the single out. You got the full length album coming out. You mentioned there's going to be some collaborations on there. Excited to hear that. You're doing a bunch of shows in springtime into the summer. What can the fans expect? Like what's next for the movement? You just trucking along?
yeah. So I don't know if we're supposed to announce like
Sure,
the tour coming up.
sure,
Maybe we could, but I guess I'm just not going to. But we do have a tour coming up, like a bigger tour. We've
cool.
got a couple of shows just leading into Reggae Rise Up, really because we needed to practice before. So we'll have like 3 days of rehearsal, three shows, and then Reggae Rise Up. Then we have the 311 cruise, and then we've got Red Rocks in April, where we're We did a headline show, but that was kind of right after COVID, so it was at half capacity.
Hmm.
So this will be our first full capacity headline show at Red Rocks with Tribal
Awesome.
Seeds and um oh my gosh, oh at Pepper and Tribal Seeds, which is just blowing my mind. Johnny Cosmic, K Bong, Landon McNamara. Yeah, we could go in a whole another direction on the Red Rocks thing about feeling unworthy and all that stuff. But that's like a mind-blowing moment too. I mean, Pepper and Tribal Seeds are two of my favorite bands in the scene as well, and they're huge and to be on a bill with them at Red Rocks is amazing. And then so we will have a summer tour after that, and I think kind of the plan is to be taking winters off and writing records, and the goal is to release a record every year. I
Wow.
think until we're done. So I think 3 years between records is kind of bullshit. It means you're pretty lazy. I mean, if you can't write a record in a year, then I don't know. You should at least be touring like all the time then, you know. And touring is just crazy for us now. Like it's become such a big endeavor.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, as we get older, you know, people got families and stuff, and it's harder and harder to do. So yeah, we're touring less, but we're writing more. So we'll be going back into the studio in the winter and make sure we have another record out next year and the next year and the next year. So the goal
That's
is a
ambitious.
record a year.
Wow.
That's
Um,
great.
any plans for any dub versions of any songs coming up? I always have to ask about that.
Yeah, and I mean, like the thing about like I don't know the way that everything works is it just usually kind of falls into place.
Mm.
So we haven't planned for anything, but I'm a big fan. So whoever wants to take a stab at it, I'm more than
I
open.
would love to.
We will send you everything. Send you
I'll
all.
I'll
We'll
do it
get
for
you all.
fun.
Sure.
You know,
Let's get you the stems. Seriously, let's get you the stems and see what you want to do. We'd
that'd
love
be
it.
awesome. I'm always down. I think every reggae band on the scene should have some dub versions. It's just always.
Yeah, we're kind of slack about that. And, you know, to be perfectly honest, like the way that like I grew up, um, you know, you have like it amazes me. You have people like Devin from the Expanders, you know, it just people that are so like versed in reggae culture.
Mm.
I didn't grow up that way, you know. I was like kind of reggae ignorant, I guess you might say. And like I had like, you know, I was like you could like list on your two hands the amount of reggae bands I listened to, and same with like hip hop and alternative music. It was like I had my core music, and that's what I stuck to,
Hmm.
and I didn't venture out. And I'm really still very like I don't know a lot of music, you know. And these days, like I don't listen to a lot of new music or really branch out from what I listened to as a kid, you know. So I didn't know like a ton about dub. I didn't really understand like a lot of things about reggae, and that's more like you know Gary's kind of thing. And um, yeah, and so like for me, it's like what is dub? Like how do you do it? You know, it's okay. Now I know what it is, but it's like not something that like comes to the forefront of my mind to do. But like JBB and dub was so sick, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, let's do something like that. I'm always down, and I'd love to do like a jungle remix of the
Mm.
record as well, like a
That'd
super
be
in a
cool too.
jungle. So that would be super cool.
Awesome. Always down for some dubs.
Yeah, let's get you the stems though, for real.
All right. Well, we'll talk after this for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really appreciate the time, Josh. I've interviewed you a few times over the years, and you've always, not always, in person, whether it be via email or once over the phone. What I love about talking to you is that you're open, and I really appreciate that. You know, you really get deep into things, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's a pleasure to speak with you and to interview you, and I look forward to probably having a conversation with you again once the full album comes out.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks both of you, man. It's been really fun, and definitely I'm glad to do this.
Yeah, thanks, Josh, for taking your time talking to us. Really look forward to hopefully catching you guys on the road if you come out to the Southwest.
Where do you live?
Right now, I live in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
How do you
Well,
like that?
I love it, man. I grew up in Jersey, so I hate the cold. I hate the humidity. So Vegas is literally the opposite of that.
It is. Yes, it is.
I'd also just like to defend myself as a Garden State person that grew up here, still lives here.
Yeah.
And I know like Philly's another animal, but
Yeah.
the city of brotherly love, I think, might be a misnomer.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, like, people on the East Coast, I think we get a bad rap. I think like we are a little more brash, we're loud, but
Mhm.
we're warm and we're authentic.
Sure.
And I think that's what's traits that I love about the people from the Northeast where I come from. So
Yeah. And I mean, let's be real. There's beautiful people everywhere, and you can't really classify any Northeast as like all, assholes. And I didn't mean that by any
I know
means.
but that's cool, man. And yeah, it's great talking to you, and I can't wait to hear more music off the record. And I'm gonna be listening to this track now with new ears after hearing that it's a love letter to the earth.
Oh,
To me,
sick.
that just is so cool. So I'll picture you looking out over your forested backyard and vibing on nature when you're seeking your inspiration. So cool.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for taking your time.
Yeah, sure. And, email me or email Reed or whatever you guys want to do. If you want to hear the record or you want stems or whatever, you know how to get in touch with me.
Awesome.
All
Look
right.
forward to it.
Definitely.
Guys,
Cool.
All right. Take care, Josh.
Cheers.
Pete,
Cheers.
appreciate it.
Cheers.
Later.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening to A Conversation in Dub, hosted by James Pasqua and Mark Raimondi. Conversation in Dub is brought to you by Rootfire, a platform for reggae music worldwide with a mission to empower artists and nurture the community that supports them. You're here because you love reggae music and want to be a part of that community? We're here to help you connect the dots.
This show is produced and edited by James Pasqua. Our theme music is an original composition called Keep Dubbin' by James Pasqua and Mark Raimondi. If you want to hear previous episodes containing full songs, you can find them all on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Conversation in Dub. And if you have any feedback, requests, or just want to talk about music, reach out there or email us at aconversationindub@gmail.com. Make sure to rate us on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, keep dubbing.